Hello everyone, and welcome once again to our shir in Dirshu Bahalacha. We are continuing our shir. We are holding on. Let's see. We are on the bottom of Reish Mem Vav Amud Beis. We're in Siman Shin Ayin Ches, and we are up to Seif Daled. Today's Mishnah Berurah is a lot less intense than the last couple of days, so we have a little time, I think. So we're going to do some Pirkei Avos first. We've taken a break. We haven't done Pirkei Avos in a while. We're in the middle of the first Mishnah of the second parak. The Mishnah had begun. Rebbe Omer, Rebbe said, "Ezohi derech yeshara sheyavar loy ha'adam." What is the proper path that one should choose for himself in life? How should one choose to comport himself in life? And Rebbe had said, "Kol shehi teferes la'oiseh v'teferes lo min ha'adam." We explained that this means that a person has to act in a way which will be satisfactory to other people and satisfactory to himself as well. And we explained that when a person does mitzvahs, when a person comports himself al pi derech haTorah, he shouldn't go to extremes. He has to do things in a way. The example that we gave, the example the Rishonim give is, let's say, by tzedakah. A person has to give an amount that people should look at him and say, oh, he's a giving person. But at the same time, he can't overdo it, and then it becomes that it's too burdensome for him. It might even be a bad example for his children if he's going to act in a way that's always a burden to him and a burden to his family. So then the next generation is going to say, Mali Lutzara Hazais, what do I need this for? This is too difficult. I don't want to do this. So he has to act in a way that works. And works means that other people look at it and they say this is something that makes sense. And at the same time, it has to be something that works for him. It has to be something that he's comfortable with, that works for him, not that something that's burdensome to him. Now we go further in the Mishnah. The next entry in the Mishnah that Rebbe has here is V'hevi zahir b'mitzvah kala kevechamura. You have to be as careful with what seems to be, so to speak, a lightweight mitzvah, as you are with a chamura, as you are with a very stringent mitzvah. And you know, it's funny. People are funny this way. There are certain mitzvahs that people look at and they sort of treat them with tremendous respect, like, wow, that's a chosh of a mitzvah. And then there are other mitzvahs that people just, well, what's the big deal? And there are a few things that come to mind. I'll give you an interesting example. My apologies. 1 second. Let me turn off my ringer over here. Okay, there we go. Okay. Let's say when it comes to davening, right? If you'll say something to somebody about Unasana Toikif on Yom Kippur, he'll be like, wow, Unasana Toikif, that's a chosh of a tefillah. Or somebody talks about Ne'ilah. Wow, Ne'ilah, that's Ne'ilah. We know that's when the Shari Shamayim are closing at the end of Yom Kippur. How about Aleinu? How about Aleinu 3 times a day? How many people are in a rush to get out of shul and they're already one step out the door when the tzibur is saying Aleinu? Or they're always running out, or it's even mentally they're already out. They're already out the door. They're already on their way to breakfast. Aleinu is such a chosh of a tefillah. You're going to treat Aleinu with a lack of respect? Aleinu is a tremendously chosh of a tefillah. Tefillin. We put on tefillin every day. So because we put on tefillin every day, so it becomes hergel. It's something that we're used to doing. And suddenly we don't treat it with such tremendous chashivas. But lulav and esrig comes to Sukkot to take a lulav and esrig. Wow, that's everybody's walking with their lulav and esrig, and they're paying. Eat matzah. They're running to the matzah bakery, and then. But how about tefillin? The Gemara says that tefillin is shakal keneged kol Torah kula. The mitzvah of tefillin is as valuable as everything else in the Torah combined. But because we put on tefillin every day, so somebody is, and you don't realize the chashivas of what you're doing. So there is this concept of mitzvah kala and mitzvah chamura, and Rebbe says no. You have to be just as careful with that mitzvah that somehow you decided is a mitzvah kala. you have to be just as careful with that mitzvah as you are with the mitzvah chamura. And Rebbe gives a reason. Rebbe says, "She'ein ata yedei matan scharin shel mitzvahs." You don't know what the reward is for being mekayim a mitzvah. And if you look at the Rishonim say, what does that mean? You should be careful with all of the mitzvahs equally because you don't know what the matan schar, what is the schar for each mitzvah. The Rishonim say, when it comes to a mitzvah loisaseh, when it comes to a prohibition, when it comes to the things that the Torah Kedosha told us not to do, so over there, the Torah Kedosha tells us what einish you get for doing an Aveira. You're Mechal Shabbos, so that's amazing, you're going to get skila. You spoke Lashon Hara, there are Averis Alav, so you'll get Malkus. So we know we have some way to, so to speak, value a mitzvah loisaseh, because the Torah gives more stringent punishments for when you transgress certain prohibitions, and less stringent punishments for when you transgress other prohibitions. So by looking at the punishment that you get for the transgression, we have a way of saying, oh, this mitzvah loisaseh is more chamer than this mitzvah loisaseh. To be Mechal Shabbos, that's a very stringent avera, because you see, you get a very, very powerful einish, a very, very powerful punishment if you're Mechal Shabbos. Something else, you get a lesser punishment. So that sort of speaks to us and says, well, obviously this is less stringent. But when it comes to a mitzvah aseh, when it comes to the positive commandments, when it comes to the things that the Torah tells us that we're supposed to do, over there the Torah Kedosha doesn't tell us you get a bigger reward for this and a lesser reward for that. So we don't know what the reward is for all of the mitzvahs. So how are we going to evaluate and say, oh, this mitzvah is a very important mitzvah, and this mitzvah is a lesser important mitzvah? You don't know which one is which. The Torah Kedosha doesn't tell us. So say the Rishonim. I think there's another lesson to be learnt over here. And that is some of the Rishonim bring down here a Medrash Tanchuma. We'll just find it here. The Rabbeinu Yonah brings it down. Moshlu chachamim zichrainam livracha moshel lama davar doima. The Chazal gave us a parable. They gave us an analogy to this concept that we don't know which avera is more, so to speak, which mitzvah is more valuable than another one, because the Torah Kedosha didn't tell us. So the Medrash says, this is comparable lemelech, to a king, shamasar pardes la'avodav, he gave over an orchard to his servants, lintaya by ilonos, and he instructed them to go plant trees. V'ilu haya maidia lehem matan tzcharam, if he would have told them that if you plant an apple tree, I'm going to pay you so much. If you plant an orange tree, I'm going to plant you so and so much. If you plant a non-fruit bearing tree, a beautiful cedar tree, I'll pay you so much. So then what would happen? Hayukulam tarchin ba'aisan shescharan meruba. So all of these servants would go run to do the work that the king said he's going to pay a lot for. Those are the trees that they're going to plant. Excuse me. So, for example, let's say the Melech would say, listen, I really like apples. So for every apple tree that you plant, I'll pay you $100 per apple tree. And somebody turns around and says, all right, I see here on the manifest, it also says that we're supposed to plant some peach trees. The Melech says, well, yeah, we do need some peach trees because I do need peaches. But I personally don't like peaches. I'm not in the mood of paying a lot for peaches. I'll pay $20 for a peach tree. Who's going to go plant the peach trees? No one's going to plant the peach trees. Everyone's going to go plant the apple trees. At the end of the day, the Melech is going to come, and he's going to go for a walk through the orchard, and he's going to have his design, that he got his custom design for the orchard that he got from his landscaper, and he's going to say, what's going on here? We were supposed to have apple trees and orange trees and peach trees and apricot trees, and we're supposed to have flowering trees and non-flowering trees and pine trees and cedar trees, and the only thing we have here is apple trees. So I was supposed to have a beautiful garden. I was supposed to have the kingdom's botanical garden, and instead I have an apple orchard. The truth is, what do you expect? Everybody ran to do the thing that they knew paid a lot of money. And the thing that didn't pay money, that they didn't do. So, says the Medrash Tanchuma, that's a mashal for what's going on over here. The truth is that we need to be Mekayim all of the mitzvahs. You know, if you look in the Sefer HaChinuch, one of the most beautiful parts of the Sefer HaChinuch to me has always been what the Chinuch calls the Shrashei HaMitzvah. By every mitzvah, the Chinuch turns around and the Chinuch goes through the shayrish of the mitzvah. What's at the root of the mitzvah? The underlying concept of the mitzvah, or the underlying lesson of the mitzvah. And the Chinuch in his Akdama goes to great lengths to tell us that we can't know, we can't possibly understand and discern what the mitzvah accomplishes. Why does the Rebbeinu Shalom want us to do this mitzvah? Why does the Rebbeinu Shalom want us to take a lulav and esrog on Sukkos? We can't really figure that out. That's something, that's divine knowledge. That's something that we're not capable of discerning. Yet the Mechaber of the Sefer HaChinuch says, by every mitzvah, I'm going to tell you the Shrashei HaMitzvah, because we can look at the mitzvah and we can discern certain lessons that the Rebbeinu Shalom wanted us to get from those mitzvahs. Every mitzvah has something that it teaches to us. It has something that it imparts to us. In some way, being Mekayim that mitzvah changes us and it improves us. So the Chinuch was a Rishon. We're not 100% sure who he was, but we know that he was one of the Rishonim. So the Sefer HaChinuch goes through every single mitzvah, and he tells us this mitzvah is because the Rebbeinu Shalom wants Klal Yisrael to understand the following. He needs us to learn the following. So in order for us to be a Muslim, for a person to become complete, he has to be Mekayim all of the mitzvahs that apply to him. He can't just pick and choose. A person can't decide, I'm going to spend my life concentrating on the mitzvah of tefillin, and I'm not worrying about anything else. I'm going to become a pro at tefillin. I'm going to know every chumrah and every little yediyah that there is to know about tefillin. Tzitzis, not my thing. Liman HaTorah, I'm not so into that. Tzedakah, somebody else could give tzedakah. No, it doesn't work that way. In order to be a Muslim, in order to be complete, you have to be Mekayim all of the mitzvahs of the Torah. Not every mitzvah applies to every single person. But my Rebbe, Rebbe Feinstein Zal Zayin Gezun, always would tell us that even the mitzvahs that don't apply to you, by learning them and by learning their halachas and striving to understand them, that is for you your kiyum of that mitzvah. And that takes the lessons of that mitzvah and brings those lessons into you. So the Mishnah over here tells me, what are you going to do? You're going to go pick and choose mitzvahs? You don't know what the schar of a mitzvah is. You don't know what each and every mitzvah accomplishes. You don't know how much the world needs each and every mitzvah. You don't know how much your neshama needs every single mitzvah. So you're going to go decide this is a mitzvah kala, this is a mitzvah chamura. You're a tippish. You're a fool. You can't possibly do that. Another way to look at this is, what does this mean, a mitzvah kala? Why, to think about this for a minute. Let's say you were granted an audience with the king. And, you walk in, we don't have a king, we don't even know what a king is. We talk about a king, so what, you're going to think about the Queen of England? What power does the Queen of England have? When we talk about a king, imagine the king who could just turn around and say, off with his head. That's a king, that's what a king means. So imagine you had the ability to be around the king, and the king turned to you. The king has 20 of his subjects over there, and the king turns to one subject and he says, I have a very important shlichus that I need taken care of. Here's a royal document, and I need this royal document delivered to the governor of this province, and it's extremely important. Make sure you do a good job. So he takes it, and he takes it very carefully, and he goes running. He turns to another subject, and he says, for you, I have a critical message that has to get out to my general in the field. Please take these instructions to the general, and the whole battle hinges upon these instructions. Make sure the instructions get delivered properly. So he takes it, and he runs very carefully. He goes to make sure he does a good job. Then the melech turns to you, and the melech says, you know what, I could use a cup of coffee. All right. So you turn around, you start walking out, And you'll say to yourself, taking a royal proclamation to a governor, that's a mitzvah chamura. That's something important. Delivering critical battle plans to a general in the field, that's chashuv, that's important. Make the melech a cup of coffee. I mean, come on, anybody can make him a cup of coffee. You know what, this is a mitzvah kala, I'm not going to do it. So you turn around, you sit down, you open a sefer, and you start learning. 10 minutes later, the melech comes out and says, didn't I ask you for a cup of coffee? What are you going to do? You look at him and say, that didn't sound important? Are you nuts? The melech asked you to bring a cup of coffee. You bring the melech a cup of coffee. It's the rotz on the melech. That's what the melech asked you to do. If the melech asked you to do that, then that's your tafkid. That's the thing that you have to do. So you're going to look at the Torah Kedosha and you're going to say, this is a mitzvah kala and this is a mitzvah chamura. The Rebbeinu Shalom told you to do this. The Rebbeinu Shalom gave you this mitzvah. That's not a mitzvah kala. There's no such thing as a mitzvah kala. Anything that the Bari Olam, this is the Bari Olam we're talking about here. Anything that the Bari Olam turned around and the Bari Olam said, this is the Ratzon HaBorei, I want you to do this. You're going to now turn around and say this is a mitzvah kala? No such thing as a mitzvah kala. And that could be also what it means, Yati Yadayim Matan Scharim Shel Mitzvahs. You have no way of comprehending what you're going to look at what the schar of the mitzvah is. This mitzvah has big schar, This mitzvah I'll do. Laman harach the yom. Oh, shiluach hakein. It says arichas yomim. Everybody wants arichas yom. I'll go run to do arichas yomim. Meantime, the Rebbeinu Shalom told you to do 612 other things. Those you're going to ignore. Then you're going to come to the Rebbeinu Shalom and say, "Give me arichas yomim." What the Rebbeinu Shalom, whatever the Rebbeinu Shalom told you to do, that's what's a mitzvah. What's a mitzvah chamura? Okay. Now let's take a look in the Mishnah Berurah. So, like I said, we're holding on Reish Mem Vav Amud Beis. We're in Siman Shin Ayin Ches, and we are holding by Sif Dalid. Last line on Reish Mem Vav Amud Beis. So, the case that we had been talking over here in the Shulchan Aruch, we had been talking about a case where there are two chatzeros. There's one chatzer behind the other chatzer. So you have a Rishus Harabim or a Mavli. Chatzer A opens up onto the Rishus Harabim or onto the Mavli. Behind Chatzer A, there's Chatzer B. Chatzer B opens up onto Chatzer A. In order for the occupants of Chatzer B to get out to the Rishus Harabim or to the Mavli, they have to walk through Chatzer A. This is the case that we've been talking about. So says the Mechaber, Im Yachid Dar Bapnimis, the Yachid Bachitzayna. Let's say Chatzer B, the inside Chatzer, only has one resident. There's only one house in Chatzer B. The Yachid Bachitzayna. And there's also only one resident in Chatzer A. Or Shnayim Bachitzayna. Maybe there are two residents in Chatzer A. So Chatzer A is a bona fide Chatzer that requires an Eruv Chatzeros. Remember, in order for a Chatzer to need an Eruv Chatzeros, to allow for transferring from the house to the Chatzer, from the Chatzer to the house, it has to be a Chatzer that has more than one resident. If it only has one resident, so then the house is miyuchid for him, and the Chatzer is also miyuchid for him. So why does he need a Eruv Chatzeros? It's only once you have multiple residents in the Chatzer, then we have a problem, because then the house is miyuchid for one person, and then the Chatzer is kind of a joint shared common property. Now we need a Eruv Chatzeros. But if not, if you only have one resident, you don't really need an Eruv Chatzeros. So in the first case on the Mechaber, neither Chatzer A nor Chatzer B really requires an Eruv Chatzeros at all. Chatzer A only has one resident, Chatzer B only has one resident. Second case of the Mechaber, on top of Reish Mem Zayin Amud Aleph, Oy Shnayim Bachitzayna, or maybe Chatzer A, the outermost Chatzer, has two residents, so it does require an Eruv. Ve'ervu, but Chatzer A did make an Eruv Chatzeros. So Chatzer A is now covered by an Eruv. So even though it has multiple residents, these multiple residents have combined in an Eruv to become one entity. But the inside Chatzer B, in this case, still only has one resident. In both of these cases of the Mechaber, Ein hayachid shebapnimis oiser al hachitzayna. The one resident that's in Chatzer B, the one resident who lives in the inside Chatzer, is not going to aser on the residents of Chatzar A, right? We spoke about in the past, we spoke yesterday, where we could have a situation where regel ha'iseres b'mekayma is it asers regel asura b'mekayma iseres shaloi b'mekayma. So we had a whole slew of cases where the inside chutzner is going to aser on the outside chutzner. For example, let's say we had a case where the outside chutzner has its own valid eruve chatzeros, and the inside chutzner has multiple residents and did not make an eruve chatzeros, or they tried to make an eruve chatzeros, but it wasn't valid for whatever reason. So now we said, even though the outside chutzner has a valid eruve chatzeros, tiltal is aser in the outside chutzner. Why? Their eruv is invalid. Why? Because regel ha'iseres b'mekayma, the feet of the people of the inside chutzner, who they are aser in their chutzner because they do not have a valid eruv, since they have a drisas haregel, since they have a rite of passage through Chatzar A, through the outside Chatzar, they're going to aser the outside Chatzar, even though the outside Chatzar really had an eruv. Now the Mechaber comes, and now the Mechaber tells me here in Sif Dalet, but if Chatzar B does not need an eruv, so Chatzar A and Chatzar B each only have one resident, so neither one of them needs an eruv. So now don't think that the drisas haregel that Chatzar B has over Chatzar A is going to aser Chatzar A. It's not, because the one resident of the inside Chatzar, the one resident of Chatzar B, is not regel asura b'mekayma. He's not aser in his Chatzar. He's mutter in his Chatzar. He's regel hamutter b'mekayma. Since he's muteres in his place, his drisas haregel does not aser on the outside Chatzar. Says the Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah is going to spell out what I just told you. Says the Mishnah Berurah, nice cut in Yud Ches. Oishnayim bachitzayna ve'ervu. Let's say there were multiple residents in Chatzar A, in the outside Chatzar, but they joined together in an eruve Chatzar, so now they're really one entity. Hainu oisam ashnayim levad. When the Mechaber says oishnayim bachitzayna ve'ervu, or if there are two residents in the outside Chatzar and they made an eruv, says the Chavetz Chaim, what does that mean that they made an eruv? Hainu oisam ashnayim levad. Those two residents of Chatzar A, they joined in an eruv chatzeros. Avaloyim apnimis, but they did not make a joint combined eruv with the inside Chatzar. V'ashmi'inon bazeh, what the Mechaber is teaching me here is, Deloy tema, don't think, the gazrinon, that we're going to make a gzera, we're going to make a decree, mishum sheyizberu sheyeshnayim ba'pnimis k'may b'chitzayna. What the Chavetz Chaim is bothered with over here is the following. The Mechaber gave us two cases over here. In one case, the outside Chatzar and the inside Chatzar both only have one resident. So neither one of them needs an eruv chatzeros. The halacha over there is that since the inside Chatzar doesn't need an eruv chatzeros, they do not aser on the outside Chatzar. His drisas haregel does not aser on the outside Chatzar. Second case of the Mechaber, the outside Chatzar has two residents, but they joined in an eruv. The inside Chatzar still only has one resident, and the inside Chatzar still does not aser on the outside Chatzar, even though he has a drisas haregel, again, for the same reason as the first case, because he's regel hamuteres b'mekayma, because he's mutter in his own Chatzar. So why did we need this second case? What's the critical difference between the first case and the second case? What does the second case teach us more than the first case? In the first case, the outside Chatzar only had one resident. In the second case, the outside Chatzar has two residents, but they joined in an eruv. So what? Why is that a bigger chiddush than the first case? Explains the Chavetz Chaim, the chiddush is, you might have thought that in a case where the outside Chatzar has two residents, maybe now the one resident of the inside Chatzar will aser on the outside Chatzar. Why? He's still regel hamuteres b'mekayma. Why should he aser? Only because of Gzeira d'Rabbanan. Maybe the Chachamim are going to say, somebody is going to look at this situation. He sees over here that there's an inside Chatzar and an outside Chatzar. He sees that the outside Chatzar has two people, so he automatically is thinking to himself, oh, this outside Chatzar is a bona fide Chatzar. Probably the inside Chatzar is also a bona fide Chatzar. Probably the inside Chatzar also has two residents. And I see that the drisas haregel of the inside Chatzar is not asering on the outside Chatzar. Oh, so I see that regel ha'iseres b'mekayma does not aser shaloi b'mekayma. The drisas regel of the inside chutzner, who is aser in his own place, is not asering on the outside chutzner. So he's going to make a mistake. He doesn't realize that in this case it's regel hamuteres b'mekayma by the inside chutzner, because the inside chutzner only has one resident. He doesn't realize that. So the Chavetz Chaim tells me that's what the Mechaber is telling you. We do not make this gzera. We don't say that somebody is going to make such a mistake. Ice cutting your test. Ein hayachid shebapnimis. The one resident of the inside chutzner does not aser on the resident of the outside chutzner. It's zayin loymar. Af shelo yervu yachad. Even though the inside chutzner and the outside chutzner did not join in a common eruv, the inside chutzner is not going to aser on the outside chutzner, even though he has a drisas regel through the outside chutzner. Why doesn't he aser? Because he's all alone in his chutzner, and in his chutzner he's mutter. He doesn't need an eruv chatzeris in his chutzner. Therefore, he's not regel ha'asura b'mekayma. He's regel hamuteres b'mekayma. In his chutzner, he's mutter, and since he's mutter in his chutzner, his drisas regel does not aser on the outside chutzner. So Ritzon Eloymar, Av Shalei Ervu Yachad, and the reason is the regel hamuteres b'mekayma eino iseres shaloi b'mekayma. Says the Ramah Hagah. V'hu adin, the same halacha applies. It doesn't have to be that the inside chutzner only has one resident. Says the Ramah, I could give you a case where the inside chutzner has more than one resident, and also it's regel hamuteres b'mekayma, and he's not going to aser on the outside chutzner. V'hu adin, rabim shehem ki yochid. You could have a rabim, you could have a multitude of people living in the inside chutzner, but they're considered like one. Kederech shenispar le'el Siman Shin Ayin, like we saw a few cases in Siman Shin Ayin. Says the Mishnah Berurah in Ois Katan Chaf, Rabim Shehem Kiyachid. You could have more than one resident. You could have multiple residents living in the inside chutzner, but they're treated as one resident. Hainu shahayu bapnimis. Let's say living in the inside chutzner you had ha'av imbanav, a father and his children. Shemekabla mimenu pras, where the children are getting their support from the father. The chalki behem, or any other case like that. Ayin shabbos Siman Shin Ayin. So this is a reference to the cases that we saw in Siman Ayin, where we said, for example, let's say you have a chutzner, and in that chutzner you have a father lives in one house in that chutzner, and then you have his 5 kids who live in houses in the chutzner. And all of the kids eat from the father. The father sends them the food, or the father gives them the money for their food. So now they're all considered to be one with the father. So this chutzner does not need an eruv chatzeris. Even though you have 6 people living in this chutzner, in 6 different houses, the father and his 5 children, since the father is supporting all of them, they're all considered to be eating at the father's table, and this chutzner does not need an eruv chatzeris, because even though they're a rabbim, they are treated halachically ki yachid. They're treated as one. Says the Rabbah over here that the same halacha that the Mechaber says here in this Seif would apply to such a case as well. Let's say you had 2 people living in the outside chutzner, and you had a father and his 5 children living in the inside chutzner, and don't think that the drisas regel of the inside chutzner is going to aser on the outside chutzner. It does not, because they don't need an eruv chatzeris in the inside chutzner. They're all considered one entity even without an eruv, since they're all supported by the father who lives in the chutzner, and therefore they are regel hamuteres b'mekayma, and their drisas regel does not aser on the outside chutzner. This concludes Siman Shin Ayin Ches, which was a complicated siman, but I would just leave you the takeaway that you should have from Siman Shin Ayin Ches. The important rule to remember that we had over here is we have this concept of regel ha'asura b'mekayma, aisera shaloi b'mekayma. When does the drisas haregel of an inside chutzner, or the drisas haregel from a porch, or when does the drisas haregel aser on the occupants of an outside chutzner? That's when the occupants of the inside chutzner are aser in their own chutzner, either because they don't have an eruv and they needed one, or they tried to make an eruv and it failed. For whatever reason, if they're aser in their chutzner, then the drisas haregel that they have through another chutzner is going to aser that other chutzner as well. If it's regel hamuteres b'mekayma, if somebody is mutter in his own chatzar, then the drisas regel that he has through another chatzar does not aser. Okay, now we go to Siman Shin Ayin Tes. Dine chatzeros ubatim beinehem. What are the laws of two chatzeros, two courtyards, ubatim beinehem, and they have houses positioned between them. So you have chatzar A and chatzar B, and in chatzar A there's a door. That door opens up to a house. And now you might have two houses, you might have three houses open to each other, and then on the other side of those houses is Chatzar B. And Chatzar B opens up to the houses as well. These are the cases that we're going to be talking about here in Siman Shin Ayin Tes. So the Mechaber begins in Sif Aleph. Shtei Chatzeros. Let's say you had two Chatzeros, and each one of these Chatzeros are bona fide Chatzeros. They each have multiple diurin, they each have multiple residents, so each one of these chatzeres require an eruv chatzeres. Ushloisha batim beinehem, and positioned between these two chatzeres are three houses. Psuchim zelozeh, the houses are opened one to each other, they have doorways going one to the other, and the chatzeres are open to the houses that are alongside them. So you have chatzar A. Alongside Chatzar A, there's a house. And there's a door going from Chatzar A to house number 1. Right next to house number 1 on the other side is house number 2. And there's a door going from house number 1 to house number 2. Right next to house number 2 on the other side is house number 3. And house number 3 has a door that goes to house number 2. And then on the other side of house number 3 is Chatzar B. And there's a door going from house number 3 into Chatzar B. So if you want to, you could walk out of Chatzar A into house number 1. You could go from house number 1 to house number 2, from house number 2 to house number 3, and from house number 3 to Chatzar B. So that's the situation that we have over here. We have these two Chatzeros, and there are three houses positioned between them. The Reitzim la'arev yachad. And now, the residents of these two Chatzeros, they want to join into one combined Erev. Because, why not? They have access one to the other. By going through these houses, they have a Pesach from one chutzner to the other chutzner. So if they so desire, they could join into one common Erev, and once they join in a combined Erev, if somebody who lives in one of the houses of Chatzar A wants to take his lawn chair, he wants to take his Keli Sheshavas Babayis, his lawn chair that started off Shabbos in his house, he wants to now take it out of his house, and he wants to take it to his chutzner. Now he wants to go from the door of his chutzner into house 1, and then into house 2, and then into house 3, and now he wants to go into Chatzar B, and he wants to put his lawn chair in the yard in Chatzar B for the Pirkei Avos on Shabbos afternoon. He's allowed to do that if he makes that Erev. So this is the case. You have the two Chatzeros, you have the three houses between them, and they want to join in a combined Erev. All right. Chatzar zeh ba derech bayis she'etzloi. The people, somebody from Chatzar A, could take the box of matzahs. Remember, Chatzar A made their own eruv chatzeres first. Now they want to join with Chatzar B. So somebody from Chatzar A could take the box of matzahs from Chatzar A. He could take the eruv from Chatzar A. He could walk through house number 1. That's the house that's right next to his Chatzar. The noisen eruvai babayis shebeemtza, and now take the eruv and put the eruv in house number 2. That's the middle house. The chein oisa hashniya, and the other chatzar, Chatzar B, they could take their box of matzahs, bring it through house number 3 into house number 2, the middle house, and they could put their eruv in house number 2. Umutarim bishloshtan, and now everybody will be joined in a combined Erev. So again, the residents of Chatzar A made their own Erev. Now they took their box of matzah, they went from their Chatzar into house number 1, from house number 1 into house number 2, that's the middle house, and they deposited their Erev in the middle house. In Chatzar B, they made their box of matzahs, they made their Erev. Now somebody took their Erev, went from their chutzner into house number 3, from house number 3 into the middle house into house number 2, and they deposited their Erev in house number 2. So now the Erev of chutzner A is in the middle house, and the Erev of chutzner B is in the middle house. By doing so, chutzner A and chutzner B and the 3 houses in the middle have all joined in a combined Erev, and now tiltul is mutter on Shabbos from these houses to those houses, from those houses to that chutzner, from that chutzner to those houses, and vice versa. They're all joined now in a combined Erev. Why? Why does this work? And the punchline over here also is that the middle 3 houses do not have to give anything. They don't have to contribute to the Erev. Why is this true? Says the Mechaber, Shekol bayis she'etzel hachotzer, because each one of the houses that are adjoining onto the chatzerisin, so that's house number 1 and house number 3, choshev loy kebeis shar, has a din of a gatehouse. It has a din of a beis shar, ve'ein tzarich litein pas, and a beis shar does not have to contribute to the Erev. What does this mean? We have said before, we've said previously, that let's say you have a chutzner, and the chutzner has a beis shar. The chutzner has a gatehouse at the opening to the chutzner. Now that gatehouse is not considered a residence. It's not considered one of the houses in the chutzner. And therefore, even if somebody happens to live in the gatehouse, when that chutzner wants to make an iruah chatzeros, the person who lives in the gatehouse does not have to contribute to the Erev, because he's not really considered a residence. He doesn't have a house. A beis shar, a gatehouse, is not a residence, even if somebody's living in it. Why isn't it a residence? Because people are walking back and forth through the gatehouse all the time. That's not considered a residence, and therefore the person living there does not have to contribute to the Erev, and if he doesn't contribute to the Erev, he doesn't destroy the Erev. And also, you're not allowed to put the Erev in a gatehouse, again, because it's not considered a residence. In our case over here, the Mechaber is saying that you put what you did was, chutzner A, they're taking their Erev, they're taking their box of matzah, they're going from their chutzner into house number 1, and from house number 1, they're going into house number 2 to deposit the Erev. What does that mean? That means that house number 1 is a gatehouse to house number 2. How did you get to house number 2? You had to walk through house number 1 in order to get to house number 2. That makes house number 1 a gatehouse to house number 2. It's a beis shar to house number 2. And a beis shar does not have to contribute to the Erev. Also, the middle house, where they're actually putting the Erev, also doesn't have to contribute to the Erev, because the middle house is the bayis shemunacha baya Erev. That's the house that you're putting the Erev in. And we had the halacha previously that the house that you put the Erev in also does not have to contribute to the Erev. Bayis shemenichin by Erev. The bayis shemenichin by Erev, the house that you put the Erev in, doesn't have to contribute. So that's the halacha the Mechaber is telling me over here. Both of these chatzeros could go from their chatzeros through the house that adjoins their chutzner into the middle house, deposit their eruvin in the middle house, and neither the middle house nor the 2 outer houses are going to have to contribute to this joint combined Erev, because the outer houses are considered gatehouses to the middle house, and the middle house is the bayis shemenichin baya Erev. The Mechaber finishes off Seif Aleph, hu bayis shemenichin baya Erev. The middle house is the house that the Erev is being put in. Ve'ein tzarich litein pas, and we know that the bayis shemenichin baya Erev is not required to give a contribution to the Erev. Says the Mishnah Berurah, nice cut in Aleph. Psuchim zelozeh, these 3 houses that are situated between the 2 chatzeros are open one to the other. Vehem gam kein psuchim lachatzeres she'etzlan, and they also have doorways opening on to the adjoining chatzeresin. The Kamash Balana, what the Mechaber is teaching me here is, even though normally, if one member of a chutzner doesn't contribute to the Erev, he destroys the Erev. Hacha Yitzuyar, over here, the Mechaber is giving you a case, Sheshum echad me'ashloisha lo yitnu chelik be'erev, where you have three houses and neither one of them are going to contribute to the Erev. So we know normally every house in a chutzner has to contribute to the Erev, otherwise it destroys the Erev and renders it invalid. Yet over here the Mechaber is telling you, I'm giving you a case where there are three houses situated between two chatzerisen, and not one of those three houses has to contribute to the Erev, and the Erev is good anyway. Over here, in our case, everybody will be mutter. So I lost the place here a second. Everybody from these two chatzeros will be allowed to take things to those houses. The habatim bahen, and the people who live in those three houses can transfer things back and forth to the chatzerison, even though they did not make a contribution to the Erev. And the Mechaber explained, the reason these three houses don't have to contribute to the Erev is because the two outside houses, chashav lo kebei shar, those are considered gatehouses to the middle house. Since the people who live in the outside chatzerisin are going through the outer houses in order to get to the middle house where they put their Erev. Still, it's so then they become a Beishar, and therefore they do not have to contribute to the Erev. For Yesha Kasvu, Chavetz Chaim says there are those that say, to who adinim nasdu shneim ha'erev be'echad mibatim asmuchim lachatzeros, oy be'echad mishar batim shebeshtei hachatzeros. The Mishnah Berurah brings down over here an opinion. This is from the Magen Avram, who says it in the name of Taisvis. He brings down a halacha over here, that this halacha would be true as well, even if they put the Erev in any of the houses of either one of the Chatzerisin. Wherever they put the Erev, one second. Yeah, no matter where they put the Erev, the three middle houses are not going to have to contribute to the Erev. Why? Because let's say the residents of Chatzar A took their Erev, they took their box of matzahs, and they put it in unit number 15 in Chatzar B. All right, we know that you have to be able to get access to your Erev on Shabbos. All right, how are the people of Chatzar A going to go get their Erev? They're going to walk through the three middle houses. They're going to walk from their Chatzar into house number 1 that adjoins their Chatzar, and then from there to house number 2, and then from there to house number 3, and then they're going to go for house number 3 into the next Chatzar. So all three of these houses are really batei shar, they're really gatehouses to get to the other Chatzar where the Erev is. And therefore, says the Magen Avram, b'shem Taisvis, it doesn't matter where you put the Erev. No matter where you put the Erev, these three middle houses are not going to have to contribute to the Erev. Because all three of these houses are a gatehouse to get into the next Chatzar. Because they have to walk through here in order to get the Erev. Neither a Beishar nor the Baisha Menicha by Erev have to give pas to the Erev. Kamavur b'simin shin samach vav sif gimel. Now we're just going to read quickly Sif Beis, because Sif Beis is very quick. It doesn't even have any Mishnah Berurah on it. And with that, we will conclude Siman Shenayin Tes. Says the Mechaber in Sif Beis, Shtei chatzeros, if you have two chatzerosin, ushnei batim beinehem, now you have two houses, not three. Now there are two houses between the two chatzeros. So you have Chatzar A. Chatzar A has a doorway into house number 1. House number 1 is a doorway into house number 2. House number 2 is a doorway into Chatzar B. So you have the two chatzeros and the two houses between them. Shtei chatzeros ushnei batim beinehem v'lo yervu yachad ela kol achas la'atzma. Chatzar A and Chatzar B did not join in a combined Erev. Instead, Chatzar A made their own Erev, and Chatzar B made their own Erev. Uba ben Chatzar zeh derech bayisha etzloi. Now, somebody came from Chatzar A, and they went through the house that adjoins their chutzner, and they went into the next house. Now, what's at work over here is the Mechaber is giving us a case where you have the two chatzeres and you have two houses between them. Chatzer A made its own erev, Chatzer B made its own erev. Now they want to join in a combined erev. So what happened? Somebody from Chatzer A took the box of matzahs. He went into house number 1, and then from house number 1 to house number 2, and he put his box of matzahs, his chutzer's box of matzahs, he put in house number 2. So he put it in the house that's further away from his chutzer. Now somebody from Chatzer B went and took Chatzer B's box of matzahs, went through house number 2 into house number 1, and put Chatzer B's erev in house number 1. So Chatzer A's erev is in house number 2, is in the house that's removed from his Chatzer. Chatzer B's erev is in house number 1. It's also in the house that's removed from his Chatzer. What's the din? So, like the Mechaber said, Uba ben Chatzer zeh. Somebody, one of the residents of this Chatzer came, derech bayis she'etzloi. He went through the house that adjoins his Chatzer, v'hiniach eruvai b'bayis she'etzel hasheni. And he placed his Chatzer's erev into the house that adjoins the other Chatzer. V'chein asa hasheni, and the other Chatzer did the same thing. They took their erev, went through the first house, and put their erev into the house that's further away from them. They put it in the house that adjoins the other Chatzer. So v'chein asa hasheni, shegam hu hiniach eruv b'bayis hasabach l'chatzer acheres. In this case, like kanu erev, the erev is not valid. Shekol echad hiniach eruv b'vei shar shel chatzer acheres. Because what each Chatzer did was, they put their erev into the base shar of the other Chatzer. What does this mean? So Chatzer A took their erev, went through the first house, and put it into the second house. That second house is a base shar for the other Chatzer, not to get into the other Chatzer. It is a base shar that is used by the other Chatzer. Because when the other Chatzer wants to get to their erev, they put their erev in the house that's adjoining your Chatzer. How do they get to their erev? They go from their Chatzer through the house that adjoins their Chatzer, and then into the other house that has their erev. So for them, the house that's adjoining their Chatzer is a Beit Shar. And for you, you have the same issue. By you go from your Chatzer into the house that adjoins your Chatzer, and you put your erev in the house that adjoins the other Chatzer. So for you to get to your erev, you go through the house that adjoins your Chatzer. So the house that adjoins your Chatzer is being used by you as a Beit Shar. Now you can't put an erev in a Beit Shar. We said that a Beit Shar doesn't have to contribute to the erev, and you're not allowed to put the erev into a Beit Shar, because a Beit Shar is not considered a residence. So therefore, in this case, both eruvin will be invalid. Like kanu erev, this erev is ineffective. Shekal echad hiniach erev b'vei shar shel chatzer acheres. This concludes Shinayin Test. It concludes today's share. Thank you so much for listening. Be well. Good night.